We welcome the talks, the people of Kashmir, the Kashmiri Americans. We welcome the talks between India and Pakistan because it has diffused the tension between these two countries, because it has created an atmosphere of normalization and reconciliation between New Delhi and Islamabad. But ladies and gentlemen, let there be absolutely no doubt that if there is no change in the mindset, if there is no change in the thought processes, if the parameters of talks between India and Pakistan over the issue of Kashmir are yet to be defined, ladies and gentlemen, then talks between India and Pakistan, they are not going to lead us anywhere. Then talks between India and Pakistan, they are not going to guarantee peace not only in Kashmir, but in the whole region of South Asia. We have a man in the name of Barack Obama who made that inspiring speech on the streets of Cairo when he gave a very important signal to every segment of this human society. And he said, yes, there is extremism everywhere, but that does not mean we must compromise on principle. Ladies and gentlemen, this is President Barack Obama speaking in Cairo. We would like our president to tell to India and Pakistan, yes, there is terrorism, yes, there is extremism on the streets of New Delhi and Islamabad, but that does not mean that we must compromise on principle. So the question arises, what is that principle that we are talking about today? Ladies and gentlemen, that principle we are talking about today, that was established by a person no less important than President Harry Truman, under whose instructions United States became the co-sponsor of the resolution number 47 that was adopted on April 21st of 1948 at the United Nations Security Council. Ladies and gentlemen, that resolution has established the principle: the future status of Kashmir must be ascertained in accordance with the wish and the will of the people.
There isn't a place in the United States that was historically Kashmiri. It's a very important element because the reason Kashmiris have the right to self-determination is that there is Kashmir, a geographical territory, a place. And that's the first element of self-determination. This is what distinguishes people with a right to self-determination from minorities. Okay, so we don't want to discuss Kashmiris as a minority. We want to discuss Kashmiris as a people with a right to self-determination. So, once again, stressing the territory. And in that territory, there has to have been a historic governance of that territory by the people in the territory. Obviously, those two elements of the simple 5-point test for self-determination are clearly met. And so emphasizing Kashmir as a place, a geophysical place, we can see it like we can see Tibet. We can't see Kashmir in the United States. And we can see it. It's like Tibet. So we have people, a place, people. The next element is also very evident with the Kashmiri people, and that is a distinct Kashmiri identity. Now, we sometimes call it distinction. There has to be a distinction between this people and the other people in the nearby area who may be claiming them. Now, in some cases, the distinction is...
Like many other areas of conflict, we here in the United States normally only hear about the conflict when blood is shed or lives are lost and hopes are shattered. But Kashmir is much more than a place of violence, pain, and anguish. It can. We are here because we know how much it should be a place where solutions are found and lives are rebuilt and a positive future is constructed. That's the purpose of this conference.
That I will continue as long as I'm in the Congress to do everything we can to bring about some positive change up there. When I talked to the President yesterday, we were talking about the number of troops that are still up there, Indian troops that are still keeping everything under wraps from their perspective. They're patrolling the streets. There's still some horrible tragedies that are taking place. I heard of gang raping young women. I've heard of murders and tortures and all kinds of things. And until just the last few months, we haven't heard of these new things that have been going on. So what I said to Dr. Fine, the President, yesterday was if they'll get me that information and give me the documentation for it, we'll once again go to the floor of the Congress and make sure the entire world and the congressional record has all these tragedies accounted for, so that the American people and the people across the world will have more information about the horrible things that the people of Kashmir are having to go through. I'd like to just say a word about
I bring you greetings from the United States Congress and from my own area in Cleveland, Ohio, where there are many members of the Pakistani community and also people from the Asian Indian community who are very concerned about Kashmir. I had representatives from this community today come to my office and urge me to consider the evidence that they wish to present concerning human rights violations in Kashmir. I have long been a champion of human rights all over the world, often being a voice when others would not want to look at things for political reasons. I had the opportunity to call forward public opinion to matters that were occurring in any particular place of the globe. And what I told your leaders is this, that I would be most pleased to use the grace and the power of the office that I hold to bring the evidence forward of human rights violations in Kashmir and to bring them to the full attention of the Congress of the United States.
My interest comes from the fact that I visited Pakistan and Kashmir several times, I think 4 times each. And years ago, when I first went to Kashmir, I met in a refugee camp, had a little town meeting with about 200 men and boys. And one of the young men stood up. He was about 16. And I saw the men and the boys with their arms and their legs hacked off, you know, in the conflict with India. And he stood up and he said, "Congressman, why is it that no one helps us in the refugee camps? Why is it that the U.S. doesn't help us? And why is it the UN doesn't help us?" I said, "I don't know. I'll get an answer for you and try to find out." So when I came back and investigated, I found that the people in Kashmir are considered IDPs, internally displaced people.